Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to PGI 2018 as we are almost ready to get going. We just need a few more moments here whilst we get the arena full and everyone joins us before the opening ceremony of this festivities as we get things running along. Gentlemen, to my left-hand side, once again joined by Boogie and Avenger, of course. We're going to take a bit more time just talking about what we expect coming into this tournament, who we think is going to be able to do well, who it might have a little bit of a troubling time, who knows. But regardless of that fact, we still have a lot of teams that we did not get a chance to talk about. One of those teams is Knights, who, for me, almost captain consistent when it comes to how they're able to play out the game, Boogie, and perform in the European qualifier.
Absolutely, and it wasn't always that case. The Pittsburgh Knights always had a bit of a rocky kind of climb to get to where they are today. But with the addition of Texas, I feel like the game has solidified a lot. They used to be a very hot showing up team. Remember in the old days of Awesome, they used to either turn up and be at the very top or be at the very bottom as well. But since then, they kind of tightened up their timings, they've tightened up their pathing, they've learned how to cross into circles, into a more safer approach. They're still a bit of a brawler team, they will put up a good fight, but this time around they do it a bit more smart, and that's why they're here at PGI.
Well, especially since that incorporation of someone like Texas, right, who I feel like whenever we get to watch him, he loves those fights, Avenger.
He loves those fights, and he also calls himself a top fragger, but we gotta be real. He was a top fragger at multiple tournaments. Also, he's the only person that have qualified with 3 different teams to 3 different lands.
True.
Absolutely insane player. Another player who actually top fragged in the recent event in Las Vegas, Kramer.
Yeah.
The best left-handed player in the world, so he has his mouse in the left hand.
Oh, you've not seen me play, to be fair.
But you're not the best left-handed player in the world. He is, though. Another thing is with Knights. The Knights, they are, I think they're also, another fun fact, I think they're the team with the highest kill game in competitive game. I think it was a 24 or 25 chicken dinner in Global Loot League. In 16 teams, of course. That's the highest I've ever seen.
You have to consider that that's 16 teams.
Yes, exactly. That's on top of that. On top of that, they have the most greedy loot area. They loot shelter, mansion, Lipovka, and prison.
Yes.
1-1-1-1. Another thing that protects them as well, so if they get hot dropped, so say there's 4 people going Lipovka on top of them, they know that instantly, and they will have 3 persons. If they lose that 4th player, they will have 3 persons in 3 extremely strong loot areas. So they're a team that is extremely not volatile to being hot dropped. They can adapt extremely well, and they can just get so much loot because that is 4 like insane plays. You get shelter, prison, and mansion.
Does that give them good control over each side of the majority of the Erangel?
Absolutely, but that not only gives them good control, is the fact that they're such good players individually as well. So even if they do get hot dropped and they might miss it, the clutch potential within them is actually quite huge for them to be able to defend themselves and stay 4-man strong.
Right.
But yes, indeed, on Eastern circles, you do have to mention that they do have prime spot. Wherever it lands mostly on the eastern side, whether it's up north towards Talbot, they will still have a good spot, or whether it's down towards Milta, they're still going to be doing pretty good. Them and Team Liquid are going to have the best kind of entrance into those circles.
I want to jump off the back of what you just mentioned with having wide loot areas, because I think we have a lot of teams that were able to prevail to come through into this tournament that do have those wide loot areas. Do you expect to see maybe a little bit of infighting on terms of the very edge of these loot areas, say if they may have an overlap onto some of the other teams encroaching position?
Actually, in the eastern side, I don't expect that because we haven't, some of these teams, we haven't seen them go, Sarki and Northshires, we haven't seen Stalba Kameski, we haven't seen Cerveny shooting range, which is also extremely strong. So there's open space, even though it's 20 teams and it's less space, it's still a lot of open spaces that could be taken from some of these teams. We see some of the teams go, we have 2 in the Gatka area, we have 2 in the farm split area, so a lot of these teams, they can go different areas. But one of the areas I expect to be contested is actually Lipovka. I think we're going to see changes between the games or between days, maybe even, that they see, okay, there's only 1 guy in Lipovka, because you can take Lipovka and then the compounds around it easily. And that's actually a decent spot compared to, sharing Gatka or sharing farm split.
Yeah, absolutely. Just making sure they have a bit of a better looting position is instrumental to how you go into the game. You are able to peek much wider, if you have a level 2 helmet and vest, than you would if you had, let's say, level 1 loot on you. So having good loot is super, super important. but then again, you know, having also a prime spot where you can loot is important, as Lebowska is a bit further away on the map. So that also means that on rotations towards the western end, your pathing has to be very, very smart, and your timing has to be impeccable so that you can actually penetrate the circle without actually getting shot.
But one of the teams that actually does sometimes, very rarely and occasionally go over to that Kameshki area that you were mentioning before is a team like Chiefs, who usually is way over the other side of the map, but they have gone to places like Kameshki. And talk to us about that area, because in general, not many teams really like going up there, but again, you know, there is one that sometimes deviates up there.
I mean, Stalber Kameshki is an area where you get not that many cars if you go Stalber, and it's like a 50-50 hit or miss with Stalber. Either there's enough loot for 2 players, more than enough loot, and you can't get everything with you, or you're going to be kind of limping out with not enough loot as 1 player. Also, rotations from there are very slow. You know, you have to get down the mountain, and it's very far away from everything. But it doesn't really matter, actually, because in the first circle, which is the casual circle, is the 0.4, which is 4.5 kilometers wide in the first circle. It doesn't really matter that much in the first circle that you have a prime position. But, I mean, rotation from Stalber Kameshki, it's easy. You can go west. There's a long way all up until Cerveny, and all the way down to, you know, the Knights of the Puff Carrier. So you have, you know, a big portion of the map to yourself that you can just take, you know, the trash compounds and everything. But there's less cars, it's hard rotations, and it's really a hit or miss with the loot. You can also send 2 guys to Kameshki, and you can again be limping out with, you know, a level 1 helmet, level 1 vest, and, you know, a UMP or not a ranged weapon at least.
And teams that have come out of other smaller regions, like the SEA region, for example, when you were talking about the trash looting tactics and just kind of going for small compounds and stuff, a team that really stood out for me when researching into a lot of these teams is Refund Gaming from that SEA region. Of course, them taking the 2nd seed over Myth Gaming, who took the 1st seed. They like Ferry Pier. They like a wide spread down there over by Ferry Pier and kind of the gas next to the eastern bridge, or western bridge even. Oh, there we go, a compass, there, it's fine. So overall though, they really spread themselves very far, Avenger, and that can be sometimes beneficial for them, or they can lose certain people very early.
I mean, with a split like, you know, Ferry, you take 1 Ferry Pier, you have one of the compound on the northern side of that, you have the Yellow's houses in that area, but you can also lock down that area. You can loot the gas station and the glass house, which we call it, on the other side, and you can just lock it down, because I think we're going to see teams coming from the military area, crossing that bridge, and then they can pick up a lot of loot coming from those guys. But with that, I actually personally love that split. You have a lot of control. You can send 2 guys to Ferry Pier if you don't like sending them even further away. But they're very greedy, again, kind of like a Knights area. If you get a military, they can go there down fast if it's 100% guaranteed military, you know, with a very southern circle. But I like the position because their rotation is extremely easy, but they can also gatekeep Na'Vi, which is probably going to be Primorsk. So greedy area, good loot compared to the position they have in the but I think it's a lot stronger that you taking a city, actually, because I like the widespread, I like that kind of new play style. I think that's why Knights do so well, because so consistent, because they have all the loot they need.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a very good point that you're bringing, the fact that Na'Vi are going to be gatekept potentially into a lot of situations here. We did talk a little bit earlier about that sort of problem, but wherever they go, they're going to be gatekept. We know that Rogue was a team that usually, Rogue unfortunately didn't make it a great contender though. They usually gate-kept Na'Vi a lot of times, but this time around, wherever they go, they're going to have a hard time entering any kind of circle that isn't Western. If they go north, they're going to have WTSG, they're going to have Gen G Black, of course, then further up north, they're going to have a Vanguard, should they choose to cross into North George territory. If they go towards Gatka, of course, they're going to have the Chiefs, they're going to have Xanadu staying in that looting position as well. Just to go straight west from their position into Primorsk, going east, they're going to have other 2 teams into that perspective. So it's very, very difficult in terms of pathing when you're looting that spot to cross the Ferry Pier teams, and I think those are going to be teams that are going to get a lot of frags.
What's important to note as well, whilst we're speculating on these very common drop locations for a lot of these teams, we can almost take it with almost a pinch of salt. We believe that they're going to go there, and that's where they will normally go, but who knows what may have happened in the scrims before we got to this tournament, before leading up. When all of these teams got together, they were practicing in the same lobby. There may be changes there. Another team I want to highlight from the SEA region is made in Thailand, of course, Myth for short. they're a team that likes to go Rozhok, especially specifically East Rozhok, as there were other teams in their region that liked to take kind of Western Rozhok and some of the compounds over there. So what do you make for a team like Made in Thailand? What do you make for them? Jeez. But beyond that, how do you think that they're going to be able to fare here?
I mean, honestly, I don't think there's going to be anybody else than them going into Russia. They've been there for a long, long time. They're a long-standing roster.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to like quickly say as well is, in the scrims, they've seen there's open areas, so we're going to see some changes. We're going to see some of these guys that are in contested areas, whatever, go into other places. But Myth, they would definitely be staying in Russia, I think. I think they're going to be taking maybe one guy into Watertown as well, because that's not taken either. And again, a Watertown Ruins strat is not good. Like, we've seen multiple teams try it in the qualifiers. They're terrible. They don't get cars. They have a hard time rotating, and they rarely get circles where it's good enough for them to stay in a position where they can loot and then get it to it fast, because they have to go on foot. But I think they're going to be sending one guy into the Watertown area, and then maybe having a wide split on the east.
And actually, that's a really important point just in general, is in this 20-team meta compared to the 16-team meta, we see some teams trying to deviate their drop initially to find cars to then get to their spot, depending on where the plane's gone, of course, but some teams will deviate slightly to get those cars first, even though they're in range of their drop position, to know that they have control of the rotations later on.
Absolutely. And a prime example of that is actually Scoom from Team Liquid. Their normal looting grounds are Yasnaya Poliana. And of course, in Yasnaya, you don't have that many car spawns. So Scoom, before the actual looting starts, he will go to the S Street, just a bit southwest of Yasnaya, to try and find a vehicle first, and then he's going to rejoin his team. What a nice and caring man he is, and selfless in his actions. But indeed, when you're talking about vehicles, you have to mention indeed the 20-team situation that we have over here. There's going to be a lot of teams. Pathing becomes so much more difficult if you don't actually have a car, and it becomes that much more difficult when you're playing in TPP, in third-person mode, because players can see you without even having to show their character. So vehicles are going to be a very, very important element, and I think Rozhok, to be mentioned for Team Myth, is also going to be a prime spot, because you're in the middle of everything. You're sure to have some cars. There's about 4 or 5 almost certain car spawns. So I think they're going to have an easier chance at rotations.
All right. Elephant in the room. Method's not here. Who's going Pachinki?
Well,
of course, it's going to be Ghost. They've been very vocal about it, and I think that's a valid strategy, saying on Twitter openly, making pictures, posting a wrangle and then putting a very big logo of your team on Pachinki. It's like, guys, take it easy. We're going Pachinki. Don't think about it. If you do, we're going to be contesting you. And Ghost, a fantastic team at contesting Pachinki and the area around it. I think they're going to have it compared to themselves, but I still think they're going to be having teams just solid them, on the farm area split. I think we're going to see some of these teams, and also Refund coming up eastern from the Western Farm Bridge, going onto the yellow houses east of the Western Bridge. So they're going to be having teams all around them, so their rotations could be very hard.
Well, this is a really important point, because I make light of Method's not here, who's going there, but actually Pachinki is a very important location in Erangel, right? Very central. You almost have a brilliant launch pad to go anywhere the circle may take you.
And you also have a good chance to gatekeep teams that are coming through what we call highways, what are normally trajectories that teams normally like to go through. Let's say north of Pachinki, there's a bit of a forest area that teams will often rotate through, so that they have somewhat of a safer kind of keep. But with Ghost Gaming, it's going to become that much more difficult when they're going to have to rotate to that position. And yes, indeed, having a prime spot like Pachinki, with those vehicles that you can get as well from the outside of town, you can get one from farm perhaps, maybe there's one in the garage in the middle, you're going to be guaranteed at least one vehicle. It's going to be up to Ghost though here to either gatekeep those teams, to either go for the crazy kills, or to put themselves in a prime spot. And I think the intelligent game that comes in from Ghost Gaming lately in the last few months, especially since they've been playing with the two EU guys, I think it's going to dictate more that they're going to try and center themselves first before trying to gatekeep teams out.
Another location that is usually a very hot topic is, of course, military. We kind of touched on it a little bit before, and what we expect at least is that Novo fight to kind of almost spill out into that area. Is that something that kind of holds true?
I mean, if military is open and you're used to going Novo, why wouldn't you just take military? So much stronger. Yes, there's not that much attachments because it's, much more guns related because of the military. But then again, if you're a team that are in Novo already, you have the strats ready. Because I mean, if you've been training for multiple months, where you're used to having an area where you rotate from, changing from Melwood to military is not that difficult. You can do the same, and I don't think that we're going to see an old fight. I hope we're going to see an old fight.
Oh yeah,
if they want to fight for it, but I think we're going to see a military fight, a military drop from Honey Badger Nation.
Gentlemen, the countdown has begun. Final thoughts before we get into it.
It's going to be an absolutely fantastic competition. It is no joke that these teams are here. They're here through great valor and great effort. It's going to be absolutely amazing.
I mean, I've been waiting 2.5 months for this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, leading into this, I've just been extremely excited. So happy to be here. Happy to see what these teams are able to bring.
Let's go.
Playing in the game, that countdown is very familiar to you, ladies and gentlemen. A huge thank you for joining us here in the Mercedes-Benz Arena. A huge thank you to joining us around the world as well. 20 seconds remain before we have the opening ceremony here live from Berlin, and you do not want to miss this. We have 20 teams. We have $2 million on the line as we get ready for PGI 2018.
The PGI Global Invitational for Berlin is underway. The European teams take to the skies for the first time on day one here.
Не можете зря все сделать, это своими ногами, ситуация он в спине, и он убивает!
On the flank already, gets a little angle and comes in with red on.
机会来了，这边的话打掉最后的蛮仔，虽然小兵在圈内，但是没有能够抵挡顾屯的最后一枪。
โดนหมอกด้วยแล้วก็เป็นหมอกที่จัดการไปด้านหน้าวันไปแช็คเป็นของลีฟันกันในเกมสุดท้ายนี้
Andrew's pushing up for the flank, and Waike Kamukau's looking for the revive. Never mind, he's going to get sprayed down in!
Rajatoro derruba, Agnar pega dois e o Lopix!
We've got another one! Person after person, he's seen Waike! Oh my god!
Guten Abend, Berlin. I'm Player Unknown, and it's my absolute honor to be here tonight to welcome you all here in the arena and everyone watching at home to the inaugural PUBG Global Invitational. This is a dream come true for me, and I can't wait to watch some of the best PUBG players in the world fight it out to be crowned global champions. So without further ado, let's get on to the battlegrounds.
That's right, the final circle has fallen here as we get ready for Berlin PGI 2018. All of these 20 teams have a championship caliber, and they're going to be fighting for the prize as well as the glory here, and to be called a world champion after they've been so victorious in their own regions. My name's Kyle Laris. I'm going to be your host throughout the next few days, and to my left-hand side, the dynamic duo as we get things going here. We have Boogie and we have Avenger standing ready to attention, ready to break down all of these games that we're going to have unfold. What's important, of course, is that we're going to be going into our first game here in just a few moments' time, and I want to get your thoughts and pick your brains a little bit as to what we may see. Of course, we talked about contested drop points here between these teams sat behind us getting ready to go right now. Is that something that could become a factor here at the very beginning, especially since we don't have that many rounds to be able to figure things out truly?
As you said, we don't have that many rounds, which is a huge factor.
Yeah.
If we have contested drop points and they lose, one game, they have to consider what are they going to do next game, because you only have 7 more games to make up for it. Usually there's a few more, but you really have to consider if you're contested, if they've been contested in scrims, consider going somewhere else, or really fight for it the first game and make sure that you win, because you need to push them out.
Exactly, and that's the point of having scrims before the game days as well. It's those test plays when teams kind of decide where they're going to be going to drop. Of course, beforehand, we usually have in the PUBG scene, and of course I'm catering to the newer audience that doesn't know necessarily that much about how PUBG sports work. We have teams going to certain loot locations at the start of the game, as you well know the game. But sometimes there are going to be 2 teams that are going to be going for that same spot, right? So that's why we have contested drops. And that's why we have those very, very important scrims where they decide what team is going to be going where. Because as you guys called it, in 8 games is not going to be enough time for you to fight it off. And losing 1 member early on is actually very decimating.
I think most important thing, though, is as much as 8 games might be a short amount of time, it really comes down to who is going to be able to adapt in a quick period of time, in a short period of time here against them. We've seen things like this before in previous tournaments. IEM Katowice stands out very strongly, where LGD slowly encroached on FaZe's area and then eventually pushed them completely out of military power.
I mean, that is also a huge thing, because that's so important, because you don't want to take a fight.
Right,
and if
right.
FaZe knows that, they knew that, and also this is the first time these teams play against each other. So we're gonna see teams that have been playing their routes, have been playing their areas. If you play a snipe, you've been playing a snipe for the last half year, you know exactly where to play, you know exactly where to rotate, you know exactly down to the last second where you're looting, how fast it's going, when you need to rotate. And that's why they're keeping their areas, and they're kind of trying to innovate their drops and change strats from tournament to tournament, but also they want to keep those spots because they have they're perfected, their rotations, their drops, everything, which is so important that also they want to fight for it.
I want to talk to you guys about current gun meta. How do you see it at the moment? I know there's being a lot of machine guns and sprinklings of DMR and slight sniper rifle attacks beyond that. How do you feel the meta is currently for gun selection, to be able to go from earlier circles into later circles, etc.? What do you think?
It depends a lot on the role that you're playing, because in PUBG, of course, as in any other esports, every kind of player on a team will have a certain role. For the support player, it doesn't necessarily matter much, but it is also imperative that he is able to come in and get kills with the least favorite weapon. Let's say if the main fragger is accustomed to the Scar, for an example, then the support player is going to have to give his Scar to the main fragger, and then he's going to have to play with perhaps the UMP that he's donated back from the actual fragger. Now, the SMGs are a powerful tool nowadays, of course, with the latest addition in the bullet velocity and, of course, the bullet damage. The SMGs have become more powerful, the DMRs have become that much more powerful, but then again, for DMRs, you're going to need scopes. So for teams that go, as you have mentioned, military zone, they're not going to have that scope. So for them, I think rifles are going to be the more powerful meta.
I think we're at a point where we are extremely well balanced across all the guns, but you have a preferred gun you play, and there's not. In the previous patch we saw the M4 meta. Everybody played M4. You could even play 2 M4s, put a 4X on 8X on it, and then have another one with a red dot or holo on it for short range. But here we're actually seeing teams go with vectors for close range, scars and force preferred, whatever, but it also comes down to loot, because again, 20 teams, not much loot, and also you need to rotate early. We're gonna see extremely early rotations coming out, coming in with a level 1 helmet and a 1 vest, 60 bullets on a UMP and a pistol, that's it. They're going to be moving because they want that center location so early, because it's close to them or they have a good path to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Feels very important to claim your locations, especially when it comes to what compounds you want to set up in. In this 20-team meta right now, if you get a good compound that you think is going to eventually shift towards proper central, you're sitting pretty there.
Absolutely, and some teams actually still value the scout meta, so to speak. Some teams will keep on looting and send one guy, perhaps with the faster vehicle that they have acquired at the moment in time, preferably of course a motorcycle, to take the most powerful circle in the middle of the circle. And that guy is basically has to play the role of a pufferfish, so to speak. He will have to shoot both his guns if people come towards him. If he sees enemies coming in, he will have to shoot both his weapons to try and pretend that there are more players in that compound that are ready to defend. Of course, players know about this, and they will sometimes scout around, circle a few times around the block, see that there's only one guy, and then crash and burn pretty much the guys that stand inside.
And aside from the scout meta, we've seen a lot of kind of teams change, well, not necessarily change, they've kind of used this for a long time, which is the 2-2 split in, say, the kind of mid-circles, especially to then control larger sets of area and then be able to potentially have safe spots in different locations to then move to where the circle may shift.
I think that's why we see Liquid do so good. They send, James Ibiza off to a very early rotation, 2-seater bike, 2 guys on the same bike, put themselves in a position where they know they can not just hold it down if it's a good position in the next circles, but also transition to and from. So they have a big area to scout. If it goes west, they usually go on the Harry Potter Tower west of Gatka. A perfect transition. Right. That's where you usually overtake. And if there's only one guy there, they just take it because they're 2 versus 1 with stronger loot and possibly also more mechanically skilled.
Yeah, that's a very powerful point to be in that actual, the tower that you mentioned. We've seen Larson actually clutch it in a very tremendous play. I think it was GLL about 4 months ago that he was playing in. Really, really great clutch by Larson in that specific place. But yes, indeed, I do agree that 2+2s are powerful. And talking about Larson, WTSG actually have, I think, in my opinion, the smartest 2+2 rotations out there.
Okay.
They know how to defend, they know how far to stay away from each other, and they always have line of sight, which is indeed one of the key elements of doing a 2+2, because you don't want to put 2 people on one edge of the circle and then 2 people on the other edge. They won't be able to support each other, neither with information, neither with firepower. So these 2+2 have to be played smart.
Definitely, and of course we've seen a lot of teams, once they drop in a certain location and a circle will pop, be it west, be it east, be it wherever, they like their own set compounds. The places that they go time after time after time. We see that through a lot of teams eventually.
Yeah, I mean, on top of that, again, I want to go back to, this is the first time these teams play against each other. I'm 100% sure that these teams are not 100% prepared for where every team goes in the set circle. Say we just put 6 circles across the map, then they know exactly what compounds are taking, but 19 other teams, that's not going to happen. So we're going to see clashes on compounds that we don't usually see. We're going to see clashes in rotations where they're going to be camped on rotation paths. We talked about north of Pachinki, huge transition path to the west and the east for teams coming there. Yeah. So I think we're going to see breaches in compounds, which you don't usually see. We're going to see contests in compounds where, because again, you have perfected a playthrough. You want to go to a location where you transition to and from, but you also want to hold it down. Yeah. So you want to go there again, and they're probably also prepared for, okay, if somebody there, what's the next step for it?
Yeah, absolutely. The good part about these qualifiers is the fact that all these teams now have something to research on the other teams. And mind you, apart from playing, for sure they're going to be, they have done their research, especially the coaches. They're going to know, okay, this compound is definitely going to be taken by one of the teams. We know that they love to play here, so we will try to avoid it. Some of the teams have a higher adaptability, but of course all the teams have a preferred kind of compound to play in certain circles. However, I think some teams will perform a bit better. I'm thinking Liquid here specifically. They're pretty much good to go wherever you set them up, whether it's a hillside, whether it's a certain compound that you put them in. They're very good with new elements. They know how to work as a team. I feel like the communication in that team is down to a tad. So I think they're going to be shining through, even if some of the other teams are going to be getting the prime locations, so to speak. I think they're going to be doing pretty well wherever they sit.
Yeah, I want to ask you guys about how you approach a game number 1 in a tournament setting like this, because obviously we're on a huge stage here. Pressure could very easily be on for a lot of these teams that may not necessarily have been in this massive arena before in a LAN setting. In fact, not many of them at all have been in this kind of setting, because this is basically the first time here truly for PUBG in an arena quite like this. How do you approach the first game? Do you approach it a little bit more cautious than you normally would, especially against some teams that you're not as well versed with? Or do you just kind of play your own game? What do you think?
honestly, I think we're going to see the kind of regional meta go into play here. So we're going to see, North America, they're very aggressive. They're going to be coming out on top of that from the beginning. I think we're going to see the regional kind of play. We have the Southeastern Asia. They're kind of taking more slow in the beginning, and then when you come further into the end, they go very aggressive third party and, stop and scout every compound they go into and everything. So I think we're going to see, the regional meta come into the first game, and then slowly, as we come through the days, we're going to see adaptability to these 20 teams, how they play and how they counter that, how they breach the other teams.
I have a theory in that regarding actually about this sort of specific thing, because we tend to see in championships time and time again certain teams that perform amazingly well in the first day, and I think a main element of that is because in the first day of any kind of tournament, teams usually fall back to a bit more cushiony, they're a bit of a safe side center strat, which means crashing in the center of the circle in the compound that is safest to defend from there, so that you have following circles as well. That's why edging teams that like to brawl, teams that are good, we're called them sweeper teams, of course, because they're very good mid-game into sweeping their circles all the way around so that they get safe passes into the next one. I think that's why they get such a good point system, such a good point standing in after the first day. After it, of course, all the teams are going to be watching the videos. They're going to realize, okay, maybe everybody's crashing, so it's a bit more viable to actually stay on the edge. And then the second day, usually you're going to see a bit more teams actually playing the edge strat.
We've certainly seen some of those teams that actually already play the edge strat kind of to a T almost. I think one of the teams that really highlights for me is a team that drops around apartments area from North America, being Team Gage. Even when circles have gone down towards military, they're still very happy with staying on the edge of the circle on mainland, even though there's kind of like an 80% chance, 85, 90% chance of that circle shifting down to military. So there's still some viability in those edge strats.
I mean, I think especially on first day, edge strats are superior. I think you need to change, you need to adapt kind of through that. I think on the first day, we're going to see teams that usually edge strat, they will prevail. And then on the next day, where teams realize that are many teams middle, that they can edge towards the later stages of the game, second circle, third circle even. So first day, I think we're going to see the edge teams do good. We're not going to see that many teams go on the edge because everybody wants to be in the middle, even though being in the middle in the first circle is not as viable as it usually is or it used to be.
Yeah, and that's for a very, very good point. We have to mention this, and again, catering to the newer audience, is that the circle system that we have here isn't the same as the default one that we played on. So, of course, considering that the circle strength is much, much slower, so with that in mind, you have a lot of play on the edge.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some of our teams, of course, though. This is Navi coming in as seed number 1 from the CIF region, and they do have that feeling that Elaine is going to be playing along with them as well, but he's certainly proved his mettle in that CIF region. Navi and a Vanguard look particularly fantastic in the CIF region.
I mean, honestly, here in Navi, they're going to be a team coming on top on the first day. They're an edging team. They come late to the later circles, even if it's on top of them. We saw Eileen, even though he's a substitute, he did fantastic for them in the CIS qualifiers. He's a very good substitute for him. I feel like he fits in well. He's very communicative and very great for that.
Oh, and another team getting a lot of response here from the crowd. 4AM hailing from China, a team that has won their TPP round. I like it. I like it a lot. And overall, they performed extremely well in TPP, so they've got a great opportunity here in day number 1 and 2.
Yeah, absolutely. 4AM performed great in TPP. They came in second to last in the FPP tournament. There goes that great support from China. You gotta love the crowd. The Chinese crowd is really great. Right. But yeah, I do think they're gonna have much higher chances in these first 2 days of the TPP tournament. I don't know if there's much to say about the FPP side of things, but then again, they're going to have to really adjust their strategy because they're a very aggressive team. They're a very vengeant team. If one of their players goes down, they don't necessarily play it on the safe side. They will go and try to attack, even if they're at a disadvantage.
Even if, as you said yourself, statistically, the more players you have into the later stages, they know that. They know if you have 4 players alive into the fourth circle, you have a higher chance, a much higher chance of winning the game.
Absolutely. Another team that we've got coming in here from Japan, of course, we have CG, and they actually have 2 teams here representing, which is important. Their organization pretty much dominates the Japanese region.
I mean, Chris Gaming, we have Windfall and Sanadu. Windfall, fantastic team. They're going to be having great times in the Milta area. They're going to be, I think they're going to be in the Milta area alone. Some thought that Ghost went there, but they're going to be there alone. They're going to be chilling there in that area, and they're going to be having good rotations from there.
One of the big teams coming into this tournament for a lot of people is Gen G Gold, with this team having propelled themselves all the way to the very top there, challenging Gen G Black for a long time, but finally really taking that mantle off them. They're one of the big names coming into the tournament.
And also we have Simpson, who played with Black previously. Correct. He played with them in Katowice, so he has a huge insight on that team. So if they come in a fight in the end game, they will try to annihilate them, and they know exactly how to.
And another team coming in from Korea, of course, we have Gen G Black here as well. And overall, for a long, long time, they were the top of Korea, be it with KSV no title. Of course, OGN Enterface was definitely always challenging up there while they were KSV no title. But Black, as it stands right now, came out of second seeding in the Korean region, and they're looking here to perform. They're a bunch of veterans when it comes to the Korean team.
They're veterans, but also they're back to their old lineup after Simpson went out and went to gold. They're back with Grammatic, and that's what they played with for a long time. So
that's what they've been good, actually.
That's what they're good at. So excited to see that. And here we see something I can't read, but it feels like a support.
I think it's a China #1, perhaps. What are the things that could be said?
Representing Refund Gaming there as well. Thank you for joining us here. Everyone from across the world has joined us here in Berlin to see who is going to become a world champion, not only in TPP, but also in FPP. And when it comes to the first game, we are ready to go, gentlemen. Game #1 here of PGI 2018. Let's over to the commentary team for game #1.
Thank you so much, and yeah, we are incredibly lucky to be doing this. This is an incredible opportunity between these teams to finally show us who really has what it takes when it matters. Their legacy starts today. That's the big part here for these teams.
That's literally it. I mean, we've been here from the start. We've seen all the qualifiers across the world. We talked various teams. They're these best in the world, are they best in the world? But really, we do have the best in the world. And now it all comes down to this. They have to fight it across 2 modes, TPP and FPP. We've seen variances, quite a lot of swings recently with, okay, you might be able to play this mode, but can you play that mode? And it kind of all comes down together. All right, there might be an average one, but at the end of it, there can only be one.
That's exactly what we're going to find out throughout the course of the next couple of days. And again, thank you to everyone turning up midweek. What is this incredible crowd? Berlin, you surprise me every single time I come here, but what a beautiful audience already. And I've got a surprising little thought that, you know, I thought maybe coming out here, Na'Vi might be the favorites, or maybe it might be Liquid. Maybe not. We have a couple of different teams coming in, getting a lot of support. So I'm loving seeing that, especially the 4 AM side. I'm liking seeing the crowd kind of getting behind them, getting loud. It's not even in game yet, and they're getting rowdy.
I mean, this is what we kind of see when we've been looking at, for example, I use FaZe and Liquid. We talk about these teams, we see them performing over in Europe. So, these are the best in the world. These are the guys that are playing at the top level. We don't see these other scenes. We don't see what they're doing behind the scene. I mean, we look at Korea, an example. They had 5 Pro Tours to get to this stop. 36 teams to get through. I mean, that's it's a bit of a gauntlet. To be able to get here out of 36 teams is massive.
And you'd only look at the other regions and simply say, oh, of course they deserve to be here. They fought incredibly hard for it. But then you look at, as you said, the region out there, that was an incredibly grueling task.
Yep.
So no one can take it away from any of these teams making it to this point. To walk onto that stage is truly an honor. And I think we're going to find out how badly they want it. That's as much as you can say when it comes to this. All these teams are incredibly talented, skilled, tactical. They have the mechanical ability. But can they deliver on a big stage? We haven't talked about it. They didn't highlight it much on the desk. People get blooming nervous. Look at that crowd. Look at that audience. This isn't sitting at home anymore. This isn't just you in your bedroom. This is you with a big audience watching your every single move.
There are a few teams that have literally qualified through one event. That was their first LAN event. They've qualified for a spot and now they're here. Like, it's talk about taking a bit of a jump up. All right, we've been in the, we've seen it through the old ages where you go to your little LAN events, you kind of build up the momentum, you get better and better through time. Some of these teams have quite literally gone, okay, we've won one qualifier and now we're sat there.
Not bad.
Playing for $1 million.
Not bad at all. And the desk got away with it. Wasn't many predictions down there. Kalaris let him off lightly. He was being a kind man to start off the day. I won't be so kind. What do you? I don't think predictions are right. Let's kind of set the tone here.
Yep.
What do we think we're going to see coming into this, especially coming into the third-person perspective? Let's kind of keep that as like a little bit of an undertow here, that it will be slightly more adjusted than what we're used to seeing, at least in this side of the world.
I mean, generally, we've been trying to assess this as much as possible, where teams could potentially be dropping, where they could potentially be fighting. Until this game actually gets going,
It's all theory.
It's all up in the air. We don't really know. We can theorize and we can best predict. One thing that I think we have at least kind of got some common ground on is the Korean teams. They could be crashing into teams early on. When we look towards Novo, you know, we see Honey Badger Nation, who both ignorantly said, we ain't moving out of here. And then we look on the opposing side, Genji Black, up in North George. We could have a few problems along the way. I definitely think, to kind of answer what you said, Korea is something that we have to look at in terms of the performance that they've been doing, especially Gold. When you've done 5 Pro Tours and you've come second at 3 of them, that sets a statement.
It is. It's a big statement piece, and I think there's going to be a lot of that here. I think teams want to come out and make a statement. You want to get others not coming near your area, not using that area for rotations. You want to kind of put the fear of God in them, because you've got to get off to the blocks. You've got to start this one quick. Otherwise, teams will be looking at you like you might be the weak link. You're the way we get further ahead here. This is why we have to see these teams coming out the gates very early on looking good. I think there's something to be said for a lot of the teams who aren't experienced on bigger stages or playing in tournaments anywhere near this caliber, that if you don't get that hot start, if you don't get that first kill, if you don't get that little bit of a good game at the beginning, the loot that you want, you're going to not feel out the game. You're not going to be able to bound back. That's where the experience would kick in. I feel with some of the more established teams who know what it's like to kind of brawl your way back in through the next couple of days if you get that bad start.
I think the overarching, not necessarily a problem, but difference from other competitions is how many little games they are. You can't use certain ones as testers. Okay, we'll drop here, we'll see how it goes. Maybe we lose a player, maybe we don't, maybe we can carry on. Maybe we can try different things and, you know, kind of pull a phase, for example. Feel it out on day number 1.
Look how well that went for phase.
Yeah, a little bit unfortunate. And then day 2 and 3, pull it out the bag. You don't get that. With 8 games, it literally is cutthroat, do or die. You can't make any mistakes, because one mistake, one really bad game, putting you in 20th position, it just puts so much pressure throughout the next 2 days.
Okay, if you're going to predict, let's say, let's just have a little go at this. Top 3, you can pick any team to sit within that. Who are you thinking for today?
You'd be wrong to not choose 4AM. You know, when you look at what they've been doing coming out of the China region. Again, 4AM, we talk about good days, bad days.
Oh, they are the completely polarizing ones at times.
TPP, first position in the qualifier.
God tier.
Happy days. FPP, 19th.
Puts a question mark in your head. It makes you wonder what's happened there.
Anything about you like a little phase of anything can happen. Anything.
It's not Sunday.
Any given Sunday.
No,
excuse me.
The Scoots isn't here yet. All right, he's probably watching somewhere, and it is the infamous any given Sunday. But it does not only apply to Sundays. It feels, especially in this game, things can go wrong. The difference made between good and great teams is the ability to recover and work with the hand you're dealt. That is what makes an incredible team at this game, and we have some sat right beside us, behind us there on that stage, preparing themselves, going through those final thoughts in their head, just going through the motion of, okay, are we still doing this plan? Yes, yes, yes. They know what they're doing. They know their loot routes. They know the threats. They know what's at stake now.
I think to answer your question further, I think definitely Liquid, you can't count them out regardless. These are old Armor boys. They've been playing third person.
I'll give you Liquid.
Just because it's third person, all these FPP players, you're just giving them more vision.
Hey, look, we all played the third person. When this game first came out, that's all we were playing as well.
It's a lot of fun, let's be honest.
It was really good.
It really is a lot of fun.
Look, I'm not gonna, I've just said it on air. I can't even pretend I can be like low key.
I don't play it.
It is good fun. But the point is that who else is joining them? Because you've gone for the two gifts. So you're going to go for
all right. You know what? I was going to say Genji Gold, but I'm going to say a Vanguard.
See, I was going to go CIS on this one, and I think Martin said it well on the desk. He said that they're the ones to look out for. Na'Vi, of course, not with full roster, could be in a bit of a problem there. They don't have the kind of go-to look that we like to see them under. This could be the room for a Vanguard to really come out and do something quite nasty.
I mean, we saw him at the CIS qualifier. It was first and second position, and they were trading shots left, right, and center. It was pretty wild. Like one day at the end of it, you'd have a Vanguard up in first position, then the next, all of a sudden, it'd go back to Na'Vi. When they both didn't get first or second, they were both down the bottom of the board. So they kind of, it's really weird. It's really bizarre. They follow one another. Whether or not they have this intuition generally, all right, you're my biggest competition, so I have a good estimation or guesstimation of where you're going to be. Obviously, Draenish used to play for that team, moved across. Yes, they're not playing with a full roster. Yes, Shadeworn is an absolute god for his age, and if he does, and when he does come back into the roster, that team is going to get elevated something chronic. I mean, the man's an absolute machine, but still, They knew this was happening. It's not as if it's an emergency, oh God, what are we going to do?
No.
So Ilam's been playing for a while now.
Okay.
They're going to be dangerous, let's be honest.
Oh, there's no taking danger away. I think there's
Zero.
danger in every single one of these teams, whether it be first person or third. I don't think that's really within question. I think when you really come down to the point, though, I think you're right. There is still danger in that roster. And I was surprised. I was wondering if you're going to go for the kind of more Korean side or the CIS side. And where are you confirming CIS here?
I'm going to do because I'm concerned about how this first initial drop's going to go for both Korean teams for the simple
That's a
fact
good point.
of, you know, we have WTSG there. They went,
Big name
boys,
as well.
we ain't moving. Simple
Yep.
as that. And same from the North American Honey Badger Nation.
There's a lot.
And anything can happen. This game one's going to be a little bit wild.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a lot of nerves coming through as well. I think this will be where you'll see a lot of teams trying to work it out a bit. Again, the game is almost underway. If you are tuning in at home, anywhere in the world right now, if you're in the arena, thank you for joining us here. We are almost prepared. You can see the teams, they don't want to rush this. They don't want to get anything wrong. When you get in that game, you want it to be 100%. You want your focus to be purely on how you are going to be the last team standing.
I think as well, just to kind of, in the final few seconds while this does go forward, for these teams that do know there are enemies abound, there are players, teams that are going to be in their drop zone, where they're going, in their local towns, their villages. If you get bullied out of that position, what does it say to other teams? Are you A, a pushover? Or at least are you B, when you go to another place and have to find another place, it's going to be difficult to loot?